As I walked around with the Torah this morning, your greeting was not only Shabbat Shalom, but many of you said, welcome home. And that's the correct greeting when somebody comes home from a trip. But when I had to send the sermon title into Gary this past week, I was sitting in Jerusalem. And so the title of the sermon was Coming Home from Home. Because when you're in the land of Israel, as you all know, we're also home. But when you take a trip, and I don't work for AAA or any other travel company, if you had to think of 3 ingredients that you needed to make a successful trip, the top 3 I would say, and you can agree or disagree with me, I would say food, the places that you visit, and the people that you travel with. No matter where you go in the world, those 3 things often contribute to what this trip will look like. But when you go to Israel, if you have been, you also need somebody to transform that experience, and that is a good tour guide or a tour educator. And so these past 11 days, when Rabbi Guzik and I led this Sinai Temple family mission to Israel with 40 people from this congregation, we had not just a tour guide, but a fantastic, unbelievable guide. Her name was Yonit Schiller. She born in Israel, but grew up in Buffalo, New York. And I knew Yonit since 8th grade because we were in USY together, the Conservative Movement's youth group. She was the loud person on the middle of the room, and I was the quiet, shy kid in the corner. But I always admired the ruach and the passion that she had for Israel, and these last 17 years she made Aliyah. She went that way. I came out west, but I would watch her online touring different groups of Christians and Jews and people from around the world, and I had a feeling that she was the one that needed to transform our experience. And so on the first night, we gathered at a restaurant in Jerusalem. Most of the people on the trip, even though they were from this community here in the sanctuary at Sinai, did not know each other. And Yonit asked us, what will you bring to Israel? And we went around, and each of us said we were expecting of the trip. We were already tired from a long day of travel. But 11 days later, on Thursday evening, when we sat in the Hilton of Tel Aviv overlooking the Mediterranean, Yonit reversed the question before we went to the airport, and she asked us, what will you bring back from Israel? What will you bring back home? The answers were beautiful. Grandparents from this congregation who watched their grandchildren have an aliyah at the southern wall, the Ezrat Yisrael, the egalitarian section of the Kotel, were in tears as they said they watched their grandchildren celebrate a bar and bat mitzvah with the rabbis from Sinai at the western wall. One child said, I'll bring back the scars I have from climbing in the Syrian bunkers in the Golan Heights. Another child, the pain of healing the wounds in the Dead Sea for the first time. And so this morning, with the inspiration of Yonit, our guide, I want to share with you just 3 moments, 3 experiences from this trip, which were unlike any other trip that I have gone on now over 20 times in the land of Israel, our home. And the first from Jerusalem. We read this morning in our Parsha of Re'eh, where God tells us, or Moshe tells the people where to bring or where to go for the Shalosh Regalim, and God says, Makom asher yivchar Adonai. Go to the place which God chose for you. It doesn't say Yerushalayim. It says, go to the place where God chose for you. So the rabbis ask, why can't you just say, go to Jerusalem, that place where we all know is so significant to us? And Maimonides in the Moreh Nevuchim gives 3 reasons why it does not say Jerusalem, but a secretive way of saying that God chose a place for us. The first, Maimonides says, is that if others find out that it's Jerusalem, they'll run there first and take it. The second, if they know that that's the place, then not only will they take it, but they'll destroy it before we get there, which we know has been the case in our history. But the third, even among the Jewish tribes, if one tribe finds out before the other that Jerusalem's the place, then that tribe will go to Jerusalem before and claim it. And so Moshe tells them, Asher makom yivchar Adonai. go to the place where God chose for us. The only thing that people knew was that that place had significance in the past, and it would in the future, but they would not know what significance that had. When I think of that phrase in our parsha this morning, Makom Shevchar Adonai, it really defined the experiences that we had these last 2 weeks. Because most of us came to this place understanding that there was significance in the past, but our ancestors could never have imagined the past 11 days that we had. And we on that trip, who literally gelled as another family unit, also could not imagine what that trip would have for our future. We spent the first 5 days in Jerusalem doing the usuals. Most of the people were there for the first time, or with people that were there for the first time. The Kotel, the Overlook, Machane Yehuda, the market right before Shabbat. But on Thursday evening, we did something that most of you have probably never done, and it's called Guru Zuzu. It's 2 words. Guru meaning a guru, and Zuzu from the Hebrew word lazuz meaning to move. And it is a silent disco dance party through the Mamilla Mall. I'm going to explain what it looks like, but you won't understand until you actually experience it yourself. You put on headphones, and you have a guide, not the tour guide, but a dance guide. And they tell you how to move your body, and I'm not an expert or even an amateur dancer. And it's a nerve-wracking experience because thousands of people who are going back and forth from the old city are watching these 40 people from Sinai Temple dance through the streets of Jerusalem. And about 20 minutes in, right in front of Cafe Rimon, in the middle of Mamilla Mall, the guide gets us into a circle, and in our headphones we hear, Ai, Olo ahavti dai, haruach vehashemesh al panai, the classic Israeli song. And one of the verses says this in English. My hands have yet to build a village, have yet to find water in the wilderness, have yet to paint a flower, and I have yet to find the path that leads to my destiny. As we heard those words in Hebrew, the dance guide said to us, on these same streets, your ancestors came before you walked. They were looking for their own destiny. But as we dance together, the destiny is in our hands. And the tour ends at the Jaffa Gate. And Guru Zuzu, the master of the dance, tells the group that the mission of our group is that one day the Arabs from the Arab Muslim quarter will begin dancing and doing Guru Zuzu. And the Christians will be doing Guru Zuzu. And the Armenians and the Jews. And one day they will meet in the middle and dance together. Because he said if we can dance together, we can do other things together as well. Number 2. For those of you who don't know my own personal story, my grandfather, Bertram Hurwitz of blessed memory, was born in Philadelphia and had 6 children right after the Holocaust, and he always said that 6 children represented 6 million of the Jews who perished in the Shoah. 3 of those children made Aliyah in around the area of 1967, which was during the 6-Day War. And because of that, as a child, I was gifted 25 out of my 27 first cousins to be Sabras, born in Israel. My grandfather made Aliyah at the age of 90 because 3 of his children were already there and passed away there 12 years ago in Kibbutz Eliyahu. And so this past week, I had the opportunity for the first time to visit the grave of my grandfather. But a couple of days later, in the middle of Tel Aviv, as you know, could be LA or Santa Monica, over 50 of us gathered in a cousin's house and had a family reunion. But the number of 50 is not the significant part. Because if you look at the picture of these 50 people, you had 3 conservative rabbis, you had ultra-Orthodox cousins, you had secular, you had Reform, you had modern Orthodox, you had religious Zionists, you had traditional. You literally had everybody under the religious spectrum. We were just family. Because when we squeezed in for that picture, We were all of Zadie's children. My grandfather could only have dreamed when he had those 6 children that over 50 of his descendants would take a picture in the Holy Land, not only representing him, but representing the Jewish people. And when I came back from that family reunion and got on the bus the next day, I looked around and I realized that it's not unique to only my family, but it's unique to all of our family. Because on that bus, you had children from Sinai Akiba Academy, from Sinai Temple Religious School. You had people who were born Jewish. You had people who converted to Judaism. You had people who had been to Israel 30 times. You had people who had been to Israel no times. But in that group picture, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I spoke about that we only have one flag. We were gathered in that country because of that pasuk today. Makom asher yivchar Adonai. God chose for us that place. It had significance yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Story number 3. There was a lot of history and a lot of learning, but there was also a lot of fun. I can't post all of the pictures on Facebook because it would show that maybe I wasn't working, but we did. When you tube down the Jordan River and you fulfill the prophecy of the book of Joshua, that's sacred work. When you float in the Dead Sea, when you climb Matzada, when you have a culinary tasting of the Carmel Market in Machane Yehuda, it's sacred work. But Thursday morning, on our last day in the land of Israel, we had the opportunity, based on a Sinai Temple relationship with the Friends of the IDF, to visit an army base. Many of you probably have had the same experience, but what was unique about this was we went to the Jewish settlement of Tzofim, right outside of Tel Aviv, in the newest battalion in the IDF today. It's called the Panther Battalion, and it's not only new, but it's revolutionary in that it is a co-ed combat unit protecting the security barrier. And from atop the hill of Tzofim, it was a clear day in Tel Aviv. You could literally see Tel Aviv and Netanya. You could see Israel at its most narrowest point of 9 miles wide. You could see the Arab village of Kalkilia and Ye'us behind us. And they understood and they explained to us why that presence had to be there. But who was it that we were speaking to in these green uniforms? The kids had the opportunities to put on the camouflage and the helmets and feel like an IDF soldier. But then the soldiers in front of us, we were told, were going to introduce themselves. And this is what they said. My name is Eliana. I'm from Seattle, and my family made Aliyah. The next one. My name is Devorah. I'm from Los Angeles. I'm a lone soldier. The next one. My name is Tess. I'm from the Netherlands, and my family made Aliyah. My name is Sarah. I'm from Argentina, and I'm a lone soldier. And the last one, my name is Yuval, and I'm from Ukraine, and my family made Aliyah. That is the newest battalion in the Israel Defense Force. Kids, children, 20 to 23 years old, put their life on hold to move, to serve. But who was commanding them? Her name is Noam. She's 27 years old, and she said she's from the town of Gush Katif. If you remember, in 2005, in the disengagement of Gaza, the Israeli Defense Force under Ariel Sharon unilaterally pulled out of Gaza to hope for better times. And Noam, this major in the IDF of this battalion, was 9 years old when she was removed from her home by the Israeli army. And now here was Noam, 27 years old, still with that experience in her mind and her heart, but also with the ability to understand that she also could serve this country with people that might think differently than her, believe differently than her, look differently than her, so that I and my children and the Sinai Temple family, so that we could dance down the streets of Jerusalem and Mamilla, so that we could eat the baklava in the Akko markets, that we could buy gifts for our friends in Machane Yehuda so that we could be safe as Jews in Israel. We saw an IDF that wasn't just simply kids in green, but the stories of those people in uniform that allowed us to be just like Moshe. Hamakom asher yivchar Adonai. Moshe in today's parsha was leading people to a place that God had chosen. We know it's the name of Yerushalayim, but it wasn't explicitly said. But the destination was clear. So these past 2 weeks, Sinai family went to that same place, a place that Yonit showed us we must continue to go back to again and again. She told us she has been in Israel for 17 years as a tour guide. And every day, she wakes up like it's a new miracle again. A place that still carries that presence of the Shekhinah of the divine, that is literally indescribable, as you all know, unless you walk those streets. We're coming to the conclusion of summer, and it means two things. The high holidays are right around the corner, but it's also time to make your plans for next summer. So just think, when you're making those plans, the world has many places to travel, but also let Sinai Temple and the Sinai Temple Israel Center, let them make that experience for you in that holy land. A place where I witnessed for these past 2 weeks, and thank God, over the last 10 weeks have been there for over 3 weeks. The cantor chanted this morning before the Shema, as we do every morning, V'havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot haaretz. This land that brings us together from all four corners of the earth. V'tolichenu kumimut li'artzenu. That allows us to stand upright into our holy land. And let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.